A young girl went into her room and vanished without a trace. The police initiated a search utilizing drones, helicopters, and hundreds of volunteers. But despite all efforts, they couldn't find any clues to her disappearance. Surprisingly, new details emerged on the third day of the extensive search, instantly turning this case into one of the country's most sensational topics, as no one expected such a turn of events. Athena Strand was born on May 25, 2015, in the small American town of Duncan, Oklahoma. Her parents divorced and her father moved to Texas, while Athena remained living with her mother. Despite the distance, her father maintained regular contact and visited her whenever possible. Sometimes her mother also brought Athena to see him, as they got along well, and she wanted her daughter to spend enough time with her dad. Later, both her mother and father remarried. Athena was blessed with two younger sisters, and they shared a close bond, always trying to spend as much time together as possible. Athena was a typical happy child, always radiating positivity, loving to play and spending as much time as possible outdoors. In late 2022, when Athena was 7, she temporarily moved to live with her father in Texas until the New Year holidays, when she would return to her mother in Oklahoma. During this time, Athena attended a local elementary school. Her father's house was situated in a remote rural area, surrounded by woods and fields. She loved spending time in nature with her dad and had a good rapport with his new wife, Elizabeth. On November 30th, just like any other day, Athena returned home from school around 4:15 p.m. Her father and grandfather were out hunting, leaving Athena at home with Elizabeth. That evening, Athena wasn't in the mood, which led to an argument with Elizabeth. Eventually, Athena got upset and went to her room, while Elizabeth headed to the kitchen to prepare dinner. After about 20 minutes, she went to the girl's room to call her for dinner, but Athena was nowhere to be found. Elizabeth searched the entire house and even checked the yard, but the girl was nowhere in sight. Following that, Elizabeth called her husband's relatives, who lived just a few hundred yards away. Sometimes Athena would visit them, but this time they said they hadn't seen her. After that, Elizabeth called her husband and told him what happened. He immediately told her to contact the police and headed straight home. At around 6:40, Elizabeth dialed 911, and officers arrived at her home within 14 minutes. She explained the situation and shared her version of what happened. She believed that Athena might have run away from home because of the argument they had. However, the girl's relatives strongly doubted this. Firstly, Athena was only 7 years old and had never wandered far from home before. Secondly, it was already evening outside, and she was afraid of the dark. Initially, the police treated Elizabeth with suspicion, mainly because she reported the child missing 40 minutes after she realized it. But after listening to her account of how she searched the entire house and contacted relatives, they concluded she was likely telling the truth. The officers immediately began searching the area. Despite the darkness, they combed the forests and fields within a radius of several kilometers from the house. According to their main theory, Athena could have left the house and got lost in the darkness, so they focused all their efforts on covering that area. They also considered the possibility of abduction, but found no evidence to support that. There were no signs of forced entry into the house. Elizabeth didn't hear any noises or screams, and none of the neighbors witnessed anything suspicious that evening. The police were assisted in the search. Efforts by the girl's relatives and concerned residents of the town. Athena's mother rushed there as soon as she learned about her daughter's disappearance. The search continued until almost 5 a.m., but they still couldn't find any traces of Athena. The situation was complicated by the fact that the area around the house was quite inaccessible, especially during the dark hours. At 7 a.m., the police resumed the search, involving even more officers. Additionally, when news of the girl's disappearance spread throughout the county, hundreds of volunteers joined the search efforts. Some of them scoured the area on horseback and ATVs, while the police utilized drones and helicopters with thermal cameras. Unfortunately, they still hadn't found Athena by the end of that day. The police were concerned for her life, as it was already the beginning of winter. Although Texas is a southern state, the temperature during those days dropped to 50 degrees. Given that the girl was wearing light clothing, it would have been really challenging for her to endure such weather. On the third day, the search continued, and the police expanded the area to miles around the house. They also involved their colleagues, exploring the possibility of a criminal aspect to the case. Despite the initial lack of evidence of abduction, the police increasingly doubted that Athena had left the house of her own accord. During these days, they combed several miles in all directions, but they couldn't find the girl. The idea that she could have walked such a distance without encountering any civilization seemed highly doubtful. Investigators tried to identify everyone who was near Athena's house that evening. This task was quite challenging since the residence was surrounded by trees and located a few dozen yards away from the main road. Moreover, there wasn't a single surveillance camera in the area. Nevertheless, they quickly obtained their first lead. It turned out that on the same evening, a courier service had delivered a package to the girl's home. Investigators immediately contacted FedEx, where they were informed that the delivery to that address was handled by an external contractor. They reached out to the organization responsible for package deliveries, and they identified the specific van that had arrived at Athena's home that evening. Fortunately for the police, each of these vehicles was equipped with surveillance cameras, so they immediately requested the footage from November 30th. After rewinding to the time when the van arrived at the house, investigators saw very alarming footage. It showed the driver pulling a girl resembling Athena into the vehicle. They quickly identified the driver as a 31-year-old Tanner Horner, and the police went to his address. Soon, the man was arrested on suspicion of abduction and was taken in for questioning. As soon as investigators mentioned the video evidence, Horner began talking. He explained that on that evening, he had indeed delivered a package to Athena's house. When he was backing up his van, he felt a strike and went to check what had happened. Horner found the girl on the ground and realized that he accidentally hit her with his vehicle. Upon approaching, he noticed that she hadn't sustained any serious injuries. The girl was conscious, not crying, and even spoke to him. According to Horner, she told him her name was Athena. Feeling unsure of what to do in this situation, he panicked. After that, he put the girl in his van, trying to figure out how to resolve the situation. She continued talking to him and said that she would tell her father about it, and Horner became even more anxious. He didn't know what to do with the whole situation, as he understood that if the girl told adults about the incident, he could face legal trouble. After that, he continued telling the investigators something that, to put it mildly, puzzled them. According to Horner, he couldn't come up with anything better than to kill her. He said that he first tried to break her neck, but it didn't work. Then he strangled the victim, took her body to a river near a neighboring town, and dumped it in the water. Of course, such a version of events raised significant questions for the police, but the suspect provided them with the exact location where he left Athena. The investigators immediately went there and indeed found her body. The news of the girl's murder shocked not only her relatives, but also thousands of people across the country. By that time, all major media outlets were covering the case, and people were appalled by such cruelty. After the body was found, Horner was charged with abduction and murder.